Hi, everyone. Welcome to the post-game show of Canada's Game Shows. My name is Ryan Vickers, and I'm the lead researcher on Season 2 of Canada's Game Shows, and luckily enough, a 12-time game show contestant. You've just watched episode 205, The Future of Game Shows, an encore presentation of episode 101 from last year. With me tonight, my special guest is Tino Monte, who has been involved in the media scene here in Canada for many years, and whom many of you may know as the host of Supermarket Sweep. Thank you so much, Tino, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. This is my first Zoom call. How do I look? This is like I've got no makeup. I'm dressed very casual. This is totally unrehearsed, and I'm unleashed. Here we go.
Well, and that's the idea. And so I will happily, viewers, if you're watching out there, if you got a question, just drop it in the YouTube chat box, and we'll try our best to get to it as we can. And we're here to discuss the episodes you've just seen. Please feel free, like I said, to leave us any questions you might have and try to answer them. Tino, we saw the things. There was a big push in the 2000s on the phone-in vote. Were you ever a viewer of things like Canadian Idol?
I was with Canadian Idol. I was not a viewer, though, because I was affiliated with CTV through the entertainment group. I helped form the entertainment side of CTV National News and CTV Newsnet. So I had a connection at that time with Canadian Idol and Fremantle and Canadian Idol. So I didn't participate, but I'm very well aware of how it was run.
Yeah, it was a fascinating show, and I feel like of the sort of American imports that we've had, that was one of the bigger one we had, and we had 6 seasons and quite the number of stars that came out of that. Are you? Do you feel something? We've moved into these app-based game shows. Do you think this is something that's going to stay for a while?
Definitely. I think it's actually going to, in much the same way we have the Zoom technology. I believe that, the key is to connect and, have a show that's simple to understand, have lots of action, lots of fun, something that's player friendly and evokes an emotional response with the viewer. And participating is part of the whole thing. And I see this multiplying over and over again. They started it, they experimented a bit. I don't know if anyone has seen the show, but I think the Game Show Network touched on it with the phones. Yeah. Everyone participating. So I think, if you have a high profile game that everybody can participate in, whether prizes or bragging rights, it doesn't hurt. But the fact that you're being part of a bigger community, and games are addictive.
That's very much so.
It is what it is. And I think you can attest to that, being involved with as many as you have.
Well, and I found too that one of the things that we talked about on the episode that that aired as a season finale was HQ and things like Big Time Live and Car Truck. I know when HQ first came out, I thought it was just an American show, so I figured I couldn't play. And it took 3 months, I think, to win my first $2. But there's that excitement of just winning something.
Yeah, that's where the bragging rights will kick in. In my day, we had a year's supply worth of water. That wasn't much to brag about. But there was a lot of fun in there and a lot of our audience participation. If you can participate, look at Jeopardy. I mean, I know only a handful of people that have been on Jeopardy, but yet one of the highest rated shows ever and for decades. So, that's a testament to people loving to get involved.
And for sure. And you talk about audience participation. I'm going to get to Supermarket Sweep in a minute, but I remember sitting when it first ran in my younger years, and my sister and I, of all things, kept yelling how certain meats were pronounced. If it was prosciutto or some other variation of that pronunciation that I shan't repeat this on this stream, obviously, but it was the silliest thing that we participated in. But how did you get involved with Supermarket Sweep then, if I can ask?
Well, I went to an audition. The background is radio. I've been in radio since 1974. And what happened was I was doing other things, had an agent, I was doing some voiceover work and whatever. And this opportunity came up because through osmosis, I was doing some television voiceover work. And they said, well, why don't you try out? So I went over there and I didn't get it. So I thought, well, gee, I came close, maybe again, I'll try for something else. And then what happened, I think if you didn't catch the series at all, is that within about 3 or 4 days, I was sitting on the couch and I just relaxing, and all of a sudden I heard the fax machine go off. Give you an idea how far back this was. And I could see through my toes this piece of paper crawling upwards, and there it had the letters HELP. So I called the production office, and that day was just a whirlwind, because not only did I get a chance to meet the producer, see the people, visit the studio, I had a wardrobe fitting that night. 7 o'clock in the morning, I was in the makeup chair the following day. I had no idea. That night I called my mother and I said, "You're not going to believe how my day went today." I said, "I've just been chosen second runner-up to be the host of a Supermarket Sweep." And my mother said, "Supermarket Sweep? I've been watching that." And she has been watching the American show. And so she gave me some pointers on how the show was played. And so that when I hit the ground running at 7 o'clock with a live audience, that I had an idea of what I was doing.
I'm curious when you mentioned that. I've been lucky, having done Reach for the Top over the number of years. The odd time we'll sit after the show, after the provincial, the national finals are done, and we'll sit in place and reach for ourselves. Did you ever have any kind of like staff run around the aisles?
No, we never had the opportunity. I'll tell you what, this show right from the beginning was we had to get it done. There were 104, something like 144 shows, and we had a very narrow time frame to do that. I took a leave of absence for my radio job. I'll never, kudos to my general manager at that time, Rick Moss, who gave me the time off. And it was just focus. That was it. 7 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. Many times we had 5 shows to do a day. The shows were broken in half, so we had 5 show run-throughs. We did the Q&As for 5 of the programs for the first part of the day, and then we did the run-throughs through the aisles of the same 5 shows for the second half, and it was crazy. In fact, my first day, I wondered, after I was finished, it was about 11:30 at night, and I was totally exhausted. Okay, I booked a hotel in Hamilton, and at that night, and I said to myself, what have I just done? I had no idea what had happened to me. It was just stabbing. And the next morning, I'm in the makeup chair again, 7 o'clock in the morning. They put a little star, as a joke, a little star on my dressing room. And the makeup, I heard in the background my voice. And I looked up at the monitors. Some poor editor had taken one of those shows and put a complete program together overnight to run for the contestants so they could see how the show was run. And so that was their warm-up. But it gave me confidence to know, yes, we have a show. It's working, because with the live crowd working off prompters, directors' cues, it was just the whole, and keeping the show and keeping it on time for the 28 minutes, less commercial time. We had, it was quite an experience.
Quite an undertaking. And you were saying before we chatted briefly that you really fed off the audience, correct?
Yeah, so actually they calmed me down on the first day, because even in the commercial, when we broke for the commercial breaks, I had a chance to speak to the audience, and we just had a nice conversation with each other, and there was a comfort level that was at the top. And that was good, because we were pulling from that audience for our contestants for the whole day. So we that was in behind the podium for the Q&A had already been comfortable. We'd already been having conversations. So that was nice.
Now, obviously this is a job and I realize that, but I'm curious to know if you have a lifetime supply of Obus forms stashed in a storage locker somewhere.
No, but I've taken a lot of jokes about Obus, and I knew the inventor because I produced a television series called Today's Inventor. And so the guy who invented the Obus form was one of my guests on the show. So there's our irony at its best.
Wonderful. It comes sort of full circle. I wanted to ask, there was a piece that was touched on in season 1 about how there was an article in Saturday Night Magazine, I want to say early 2000s, and they gathered a whole group of you in Los Angeles. Is that correct, for a photo shoot?
Yeah, well, I was about 3 years into CTV on the entertainment side, and I got a phone call from Toronto Life, I think, and they called and they said, "Would you be interested in doing or participating in a piece that talked about Canadian game show hosts?" And I said, "Sure." And So all of a sudden a ticket showed up to go to Los Angeles, and there was an airport hangar where we all gathered. And that's where I had a chance to talk with Monte Hall, hang out with Alex Trebek, and a number of Canadian hosts. Unfortunately, I don't think Jim Perry was there, but there were a number of people, Bumper Stumpers, the whole thing. We finally all got together, and it was like a little family. It was unspoken word. We all got together, and we all on the same page, and because we sort of understood the whole story. I wasn't on the same level as Alex Trebek. It was just like the 144 shows that I did the one summer. But irony would have it that many people, those shows, when they repeated them again years later, when the Game Show Network was first established, they ran continuously. People would come up to me and still think I was hosting that show.
It is amazing how game shows last over time that much. And have you had a chance to see the new version with Leslie Jones?
Yes, I did as well. I miss the live audience in it, but I do love the production values though, and it's a fresh spin on an old idea, but it's the same principle. But I wish there had been a live audience with it, but still, she does a fabulous job on it. So I can't.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say. Sorry, go ahead, Tino. My apologies.
No, I'll let you the host first.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I just wanted to touch. BP has a question saying, Tino, what makes a good host, and what advice would you give to an aspiring host?
Oh, well, I think that's interesting because I didn't know if I'd be a good host or not. And the fellow who did the American version of the show sent me a beautiful note after our pilot show. I think it's to make everybody feel comfortable, to be very relatable. And that's what I did when I first established. I talked to them and I explained to the live audience, this is my first shot. We're in this together, and let's have some fun. And I just basically do a bit of a warm up. I don't know. Have you ever had a chance to see the Dave Letterman show when he was running in New York?
You know what? I did. One of my first times ever in New York City, I showed up on a Sunday and I got a ticket for a Tuesday show, and he knows his stuff. I was really impressed.
Well, he didn't have a comedian. He didn't have anybody do a warm up. He came out and spoke to the audience himself. And I thought that was much more effective. And to the point where we were always almost saying to ourselves, is that Letterman? Because that doesn't happen. And he got everybody in on the same plane with him before he started. And he didn't waste 30 seconds. As soon as he finished talking to them, the show started immediately. And that's one of the reasons you see him running across. That's his theme, running across the backstage as he comes in. And I think that's a good thing for a host to be able to connect with his audience. Now, if you don't have a live audience, then the same is true for your contestants, to make them feel warm. And now I'm not a comedian. I'm more a straight guy, but I'm honest. And I think they can detect that I'm just having fun with them. But comedians can do that too. And Family Feud is a fine example, where it connects and still be able to, run with the flow. I think the comedic side of our show would happen unexpectedly. And many of the things that happened could not be left in the show for technical reasons, but they were funny. And they actually brought the level of tension down to the point where we could just have a lot of fun with it. One that did escape, of course, is the set almost being unhinged by shoppers, slamming into us. But a lot of things like that happen. In fact, I have a blooper tape, which I got at the wrap party, which I now have buried in my backyard, but I should probably unearth it and auction it off for charity because it was quite funny.
I think people would enjoy seeing that, and I know that would probably go for a good penny on charity, especially nowadays. But I'm just and that kind of brings up the fact that you probably had some crazy contestants that you really sort of remember and sort of stick out in your mind, I'm guessing.
Well, there are a few that
that's fair. I don't want you to sell any state secrets. So
the reason why I can't say anything is because it'd be not. It's just because of some of the things they said had to be left out in the show, but
Fair
they
enough.
were funny.
Understood.
And I don't want to embarrass anybody as well. But
No,
we did
for
have
sure.
a lot of fun with it. I love giving away the recliner, though, to two people who are unrelated, aside from the fact that it's like one gets it for Monday Night Football and the other for, who knows. But the prizes at times were, they weren't on the same level as they are now.
I have a good friend of mine that was on the show with you, and they came second, and I think they won some kind of fruit basket or food basket, and it was her and her brother-in-law, so she was happy to win it. And I guess the people that got to the end won a like 2-night stay in Markham at the Holiday Inn, and they wanted to trade. And my friend said, no, we're good. So there was clearly some pecking order that I'm not aware of for those prizes, but.
We've sent plane loads of people to Cuba too. And
it's true.
We populated the coastline with our giveaways.
When I was lucky enough to try out for Wheel of Fortune many moons ago, it was funny to watch the American contestant coordinators look and basically became up who's been on what show. So someone had been on Classic Concentration, which was big in the 80s with Alex Trebek. But then we started naming off the Canadian shows, and it was deer in the headlights. Oh, I've been on Just Like Mom. I've been on Bumper Stumpers. I've been on Supermarket Sweep. What did you win? A year's maid service. And I thought, that's it. Along with the water you mentioned. So
that's the one that hit me as a year's supply of water. I didn't understand the concept of that, but I went with it.
Yeah. Exactly. It's it's something that it's interesting that it's been on and off for a number of years on Canadian television, but it really has that staying power. And I wish they would make new episodes for you. Do you think it's something that would come back maybe on Canadian television one day?
They were looking in Montreal for a French version of the same show, and but I think at this point, I mean, there's so many other things that are happening. Sure. If they could, we have to bring it into the Roaring 20s. We have to bring it up a notch. There are so many great shows out there right now that are taking advantage of the technology that's available.
For sure.
I'd like to see more of that. If we could find a way to marry the two, I could see it coming back.
And we talked before, you've done a lot of, maybe just touch on what you've done besides Supermarket Sweep that people would know you from in the Canadian landscape, I guess we can say. You were saying you've worked for CTV as well for a while?
Well, yeah, we helped to establish the entertainment network on CTV Newsnet, CTV News 1 at that time, and then became Newsnet. I've gone into the corporate world, but I did a lot of film work. And that's the interesting thing too, is because the person who loves a game show is passionate about it. And I find that when they stop me in the street or I'd be in a restaurant, wherever I am, this show was like a snapshot. It only took 2 months to do this show complete. People still remember it. They still refer of all the things that I've done. And that includes my film work. I've done a lot of, I've been in a lot of movies. They remind me a lot of people who like zombie movies. Now, I'm in Dawn of the Dead and Diary of the Dead. I'll give you an example of my portfolio. Those are the two films that really stand out. And people reach out to me because that is a special niche. Zombies, you know what I mean? It's that.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's the same for game shows. That is a special niche, and it's sacred for those people who are into it. And I respect that. And so I've had a lot of people reach out to me on email, and I've sent autographs and stuff like that. Even today for Supermarket Sweep, and they do it for like my wife is this. There's an anniversary coming up. We remember when we were younger. Could you give me an autograph? And I would send it because I still have all the old pictures from the old bio stuff. But the same is true of the zombie movies. Of all the other films, that's the one I recognize. Of all the television work that I've done in the past, it's the game show.
But I understand what you mean. I was lucky enough. I have a friend that worked on the version of Degrassi about 10 years ago, and she got me a spot as a day player, just as a little fun treat. But again, it's one of these things that it's in the Canadian psyche. There's certain shows that even if they're not a huge run, that they stay with us. Is there anything, I'm kind of curious, any other game shows you've seen along the way that you would have enjoyed a crack at hosting?
Oh, well, at the time, I thought, that it was a shame that Supermarket Sweep finished after 1 year. They were very close to starting a second and a third season. I wanted to ride that. I had a good time because I felt after almost, like I said, close to 100 and something shows that I finally got it. I was ready to ace it,
As we talked before, I would have happily appreciated a second season and having hit in that 18-year-old eligibility.
Yeah.
Although if you tell me now I could have been 16, this will not end well for me.
No, it's fine. That's fine. But many of the people that saw the show should have been in school and would come up to it. For some reason, they would, they were taking time off, and it had a very young audience. I was quite surprised.
One of the things we put up some clips that didn't make it into the air shows, but that are on our YouTube channel and canadasgameshows.com. You talked about a scavenger hunt where people showed up in the middle of the night looking for a tie.
And that's a fine example because my parents had the lower level. We had purchased a home and my parents were in the lower level. Mm-hmm. And at about 11:30 at night, there was a ding dong, and I came to the door, and there was the crowd of people, like young people, and I was wondering what goes through your mind at 11:30 at night to see these people, and they said, "Are you Tino Monte?" And I copped to that, and they said, "We have traveled a very long distance to meet you, and we are in a scavenger hunt, and we would like if we could take something back from the show to prove that we have been there." Well, after we talked for about 10 minutes, I find out that these people are from the Maritimes. And
all the way outstanding.
And they show me their license, their, all their stuff, their plane ticket, everything. This was their get. So I went downstairs. They gave me some of the stuff, some of those wild ties, and I brought one in the back. I signed some autographs, gave them some pictures, and they were on their way. They had a piece of memorabilia. I don't know where all those other ties are, but they have one of them somewhere in Nova Scotia.
I went to school in New Brunswick and then in Newfoundland afterwards, and I can attest to that. That is the maritime, very much the maritime spirit. Listen, Tino, I want to thank you so much for taking time to join us tonight. It really means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to our viewers. Thank you as well for being as part of the second season of the Search for Canada's Game Shows. I know it's one of those things you talk about that you say it comes and goes. I shouldn't say. I should say that it stays with you, but it's always nice to hear it from someone who clearly was there and clearly lived it. So any parting thoughts that we would want to know about Supermarket Sweep before we go?
I don't know. Next time when you hear the beep, think of the fun you could be having playing Supermarket Sweep.
I feel like my life has just gotten so much better this day. So I want to say thank you everyone for watching. You can catch up on episodes on Game TV's website, and there's bonus material on our Canada's Game Shows YouTube page, as well as canadasgameshows.com. A big thank you to our friends Tom, Mike, and Christian at Tell Them What They've Won, Gordon, Jason, Chico at We Love to Interrupt, and Stephen Hall in Australia at howtowingameshows.com for their help in promoting the series this year. And thanks to Reach for the Top for the technical assistance. And thank you everyone for watching. And we look forward to having you back. And please, if you'd like to drop the powers that be a line and let them know what you thought, we'd love to have that. So take care. Thank you very much, Tino. And goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we are clear.
All right.
Oh.